Joined now by Calvin Dark. He's the principal and co-founder of RC Communications. That's a public relations firm here in Washington. Big week. Fiona Hill, first one up. The Russia expert resigned back in July. Talk to us about the importance of what she might have to say.
Well, I think it's important because she wasn't a political person, so to speak. You know, she was the subject matter expert. So she's really going to be able to give in great detail what was the policy, what were the changes in the policy, and then what were the reasons behind those changes. And from what I've seen of what's kind of dripping out is that she supposedly has a photographic memory, which is probably why she's still testifying.
This is all going on behind closed doors. Kurt Volker's already spoken to these members of Congress. The Ukrainian ambassador, who was dismissed, has spoken. Congressman Jamie Raskin said earlier today, essentially everybody is telling the members behind closed doors that the phone call is just the tip of the iceberg. Kind of give me your sense of how the White House is going to react to all of this, because they don't really know what's being said behind closed doors. It's been easy for Trump to attack people when they've been in front of the cameras, like Mueller and Comey. Not the case here.
Well, I think Adam Schiff made a very good point, two very good points. One is he said yesterday, I believe, that it's not necessary potentially to have the whistleblower, because they're just reporting what they heard. They weren't on the actual call, and everything that's come out corroborates that and adds more to it. So that's the one thing. The second thing is holding these behind closed doors doesn't allow the White House or more politically oriented people who will be testifying to get their stories in line. And I think that that's a real important part.
Speaking of which, Ambassador Gordon Sondland, who was a political appointee very close to Trump, seems to be, at least if you're reading the Washington Post article, ready to kind of throw him under the bus. It wasn't me that said this, it was the president, the quid pro quo, which also gets back to what you're talking about behind closed doors. They can't compare notes. You go in, you say something, everybody else says something else, you're in trouble.
Yes, because I think even though Sondland is a Trump appointee, he realizes that he can't go against what everybody else saw and what everybody else knows. So he knows even if he wanted to protect the president who appointed him, he can only go so far. And I think that it's going to be really key that you can never really truly know what somebody means in a text message, be it for an ambassador or in your personal life. But it had the sense of a very dictated legal statement in a text message, and now we're hearing that that actually might be the case, it was dictated. And so it's going to lose credibility if the person is telling you to tell them that there was no quid pro quo. And so that's going to knock down the president's argument.
And dictated, and also, let's get off this text. Let's start talking on the phone where you may not have the records of it. Michael McKinley, a senior advisor to the Secretary of State, just mentioned that he's probably going to talk on Wednesday. George Kent was Deputy Secretary of State in charge of Ukraine in the Obama and Trump administrations. He's talking as well this week. Gordon Sondland, we already mentioned. Is this kind of revenge of the bureaucrats? I mean, these are the actual real people in the trenches, a lot of them complaining that Giuliani had kind of this kind of shadow government, so to speak, running the situation in Ukraine.
I think that that could be it, because a lot of the people, regardless of their political affiliations, this is their life that they've dedicated to foreign service in their particular area of the world. And so I can imagine if they saw 20, 30 years of work being upended by someone who doesn't even have an official government role in the case of Giuliani. But even if they weren't, this is going to be the deep state. That President Trump has already signaled that that's who's going to be to blame. And unfortunately, if all of the evidence comes from State Department bureaucrats, which in a normal period of time would have amazing credibility, it's actually going to work in President Trump's favor, because he said from day one that they've tried to take him down.
With his followers, maybe not everybody else. But Calvin Dark, always a pleasure. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate it.
Thank you.